interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's Friday night. It's 6 p.m. Central Time, and that means another edition of Vikings Uncensored. With you always, I am Rhino, and with me, my co-host, Jebediah Brunswick, as he is fully embracing his Amishness this weekend. And it's division round weekend. Unfortunately, the Minnesota Vikings are not part of that, as we are all painfully aware, but there's all kinds of stuff going on as it is. Thought we'd do a little looking ahead this weekend and at some of the changes that will undoubtedly be coming to the Minnesota Vikings roster, as we have 27 players who are pending free agents. So we will break those guys down one by one here shortly and kind of give our opinions whether we should try to keep them, get rid of them, pitch them over the side of the boat, however we want to do it. But good
Sounds
evening,
great,
Drew.
man.
Good evening, Drew, Dan, Dave, the Smokehouse King himself, Reggie Adams, and everybody else in the chat room. Welcome and good evening. Love having you guys in the live chat. Love doing the live shows. We are here, we are live, and we're ready to have some fun here for the next 45 minutes or to an hour or so. A couple of news items we'll hit here, though, before we get started. Some kind of sad / shocking news today came out this afternoon that the parent company of Sports Illustrated announced that they are laying off all of their writing staff. So that's always a nice thing to get on a Friday as a pink slip, but it's going to be the end of an era as far as Sports Illustrated goes.
That's crazy, man.
You've got a lot of guys that have written for SI for a long time. Guys that cover the Vikings like Will Ragatz and others.
But you know what, though? It kind of opens the door to guys like us and other guys on platforms like us, as far as podcasts go and people that follow the team, in a positive light, anyways, looking at it from our angle, anyways.
Wow. If we can get Kathy Ireland to pose for a spread for Vikings Uncensored, then we can call ourselves being at Sports Illustrated's level. But
I'll get her, man. I'll get her. My brother said he'll do the spread. Anyways.
Thanks, Dave, but we'll pass on that one. We'll have our people talk to your people and get back to you on that one. Yeah, just like Dave or Drew just said, bummer. At least keep the swimsuit edition. My guess is that's gone too.
Yeah,
which is a knife through the heart of millions of guys that grew up in the 80s and 90s, especially. I don't know if it's near as what it was nowadays, but still, it's a sad development nonetheless. Little coaching news out there right now. Of course, Jim Harbaugh has interviewed with the Los Angeles Chargers. Odds-on favorite to get that job should he want it. I think they interviewed David Shaw today also, I believe. And they've had a few other guys in. Nothing really up in Seattle. I think they had Dan Quinn in for an interview. Haven't heard much else there. Carolina, I don't think they're going to have a coach next year because I have heard nothing about any interviews they are doing. The Raiders sound like they are finalizing the deal to make Antonio Pierce the permanent head coach, removing the interim tag, which I think is a very good move on their part. Did they have a swimsuit edition back in the 40s? Dave's old, but he's not that old, Drew. Come on. But probably the biggest news out of the coaching ranks is that Darth Hoodius himself, Bill Belichick, has had not one but two interviews with the Atlanta Falcons, and appears to be closing in on that job as well. Made the joke in our Gallagher group today that in the contract negotiations, if I'm Bill Belichick, the first number I throw out there is $28.3 million. But sounds like Belichick likely will end up in Atlanta, which makes things interesting in the draft, quarterback race and stuff like that. We'll talk about that as we get closer. Then just one other thing I found kind of humorous the last couple of days. Former Washington Commanders / Redskins head coach Jay Gruden and former Washington quarterback Robert Griffin III have been having a kind of a slap fight back and forth on Twitter X, going back and forth, and it's been kind of humorous to follow. Two guys that are no longer relevant in any sort of the game being played. I mean, RG3 does ESPN stuff or whatever it is, but it's that's an idea, David, but I don't know that it's a good idea. I mean, I don't know what month Mr. Amish over here needs to be, but gotta get you that. You gotta get you them wide brim hats and.
No kidding, right?
But your homies agree you really look good in black, so.
Oh man, that's a great one. That's a classic.
Yeah.
Bad hair day.
Yeah. Anywho, good evening, Stephen. Welcome to the show. Looking ahead a little bit here, the Minnesota Vikings 2024 roster looks to be considerably different than what the 2023 roster was, mainly for the fact that over half of the 53-man roster is a pending free agent. We have 27 in total. So we kind of figured we would kind of go through the list here and just kind of banter it back and forth. You know, whether we think we would like to bring the team to bring them back, whether we think they can just walk. You know, and you guys throw your comments in on these guys as we go along, and we'll kind of break them down and kind of go with it as we go. So the first one on the list, and honestly, I did not even know this guy was on the active roster. Cornerback John Reed. He is an unrestricted free agent.
I mean, I would just, unless they seen something in him. I mean, we didn't even know he was on the roster to begin with, I guess.
Right.
So, I mean, he'd be one that I would let walk unless they seen something.
Yeah, and I think he was I don't know if he was on.
Well, we were getting pretty thin at corner there at the end of the season, so maybe that's why he was on the roster there.
Yeah, or was he? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he played at all. So
Gone.
The second player on the list is defensive tackle TJ Smith. Now he is an exclusive rights free agent, which means the Vikings can match, can do whatever with any kind of contract that he would get. What do you think on him? Yeah.
That'd be all right. Let him walk too.
Yeah, I mean, being these exclusive rights, I would say, and I don't think there's going to be a huge TJ Smith market out there. So you bring him in for camp body if nothing else, I would think. But that's third guy. This guy played a little bit. Cornerback Theo Jackson, another exclusive rights free agent.
I would be negotiating. He's one that kind of piques my interest for sure. I would be talking about an extension with him. I liked what I seen out of Jackson. For not having a lot of reps, as far as history goes, he came out when he did play. He looked fairly good. I mean, like a young developing player. So he's somebody I would look at definitely trying to get back on the team.
Yeah, I think there's a little potential there, maybe. And, he's an exclusive rights guy. He's not going to be expensive by any means. And as you said, we are pretty short and thin at the cornerback position. So, yeah, I mean, bring him back for.
I think he played a little bit of safety there, too, for us some this year.
It might have.
I believe so. I believe he did.
Dave says keep Theo.
Yeah.
I would tend to agree.
Yep. And if he did play some corner, it was more, I would say slot, or nickel.
Well, but the thing.
Either way, he's a good look to come back for me, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Flores ran three safeties most of the time anyway, so kind of rotated guys around there. So it was interesting. A couple of times he played when Lewis Seen did not. So
right.
Either tells you something about Theo Jackson or tells you something about Lewis Seen,
and he has a little nastiness to him. Jackson does, I think. I mean, he knows how to lay the wood, and he plays with a lot of heart. So
yeah, and I liked what he did. I liked what he did in preseason. So I'm perfectly fine bringing him back.
And that's good. I mean, that's good news for this guy. This is the third guy that we've talked about, and then we're going kind of from the back way up. And I would love to bring him back.
Yep.
He's young. So.
Yeah. Yeah, not saying much at the moment. No, that's true. But next guy on the list. This guy I had really high hopes for this year, and there was a lot of hype surrounding him that he was going to take that next step, but he never really did. Defensive tackle, Kiris Tonga.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
True. Drew was ahead of Lewis Seen on the depth chart. Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah, I was looking for a lot out of Tonga this year. I was looking for him to really take that next step to be, upper mid-tier to, class of defensive tackles in the league.
Well, he was on. There was one of those preseason lists that came out. Tonga was on one of those, ones to watch list.
A couple, yeah. Kind of a disappointment. At this point, I wouldn't miss him. I mean, we didn't really. It's quiet, up and down.
Yeah, I mean, there wasn't much for splash plays that he made when he did play. So I'm fine with him walking. I'm fine with him coming back if they want to try him out one more time. But seeing the fact that he was a healthy scratch for a handful of games in the middle of the season, I don't know that he really fits into what Flores wants all that much. So. Next on the list, tight end Nick Muse, another exclusive rights free agent.
He's somebody I'd be interested in keeping and retaining for sure. From what we've seen out of him in last preseason and with the tight end situation right now, the way it is, and with Johnny, the way I mean, he had his ups, but he had his downs too. I would be all about keeping Muse here.
Well, and the biggest thing with the tight end group is, we don't know right now if TJ Hawkinson's going to be ready to go at the start of the season. So,
right, correct.
I think Muse sticks around. I don't think he's going to be very expensive.
Honestly, I feel a lot better about Muse at this point this year than I did about him at this point last year.
Yeah, I mean, he showed considerable growth in that offseason and second training camp. So,
Yeah.
I think he's worth keeping around. I think so.
And for cheap. You'd be able to get him for cheap.
Yep. Here's a bigger name guy that should spur some discussion on this. Wide receiver KJ Osborne, unrestricted free agent.
I believe he's gone. I believe he's going to go somewhere else and expect he's going to go somewhere else where he's going to get more looks, basically. And Osborne was offered the chance to shine this year, and he didn't grab the brass ring. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I believe Osborne's going to go somewhere else, and I think it works out better for both parties that way.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't step up nearly like I thought he was going to, especially being in a contract year.
And a lot of that had to do with Addison, and that's no disrespect to KJ,
No, I mean, and we fully expected Addison to be that number 2 wide receiver, shortly into the season when we saw him and stuff in the spring. But
Osborne did have some issues with drop balls this year.
I was just going to get to that. That was the biggest thing. He had that. He had a few plays where
splash plays, but then he'd make splash drops as well when you needed it. But he did have some plays where, when you needed it, it happened. But then, like I said, there were some drops where you're like, oh man, I kind of let the steam out of the drive at the moment.
Yep. And to Drew's point here, I would tend to agree. Osborne he's a sufficient number 3 wide receiver. He is, but you can get younger, you can get cheaper, and there's a lot of guys in this class. So
before last season, to you in general, as Osborne, I think we should have tried to shop him before the end of this or the beginning of this season.
His value would have been high enough at that point in time. We probably could have got something for him. But
either way, it benefits both sides to move on from one another. I think KJ benefits going on somewhere else and trying to thrive and letting us kind of continue to do what we're doing here right now.
I agree. All right, on to the next one. Tackle/guard.
Great guy, by the way. KJ
Osborne, yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Next guy, tackle/guard, Blake Brandel. He's a restricted free agent, so we do have some team control on that one. He'll get tendered at, I don't know what kind of a round they'll tender him at, but
I'm kind of on the fence with Brandel. I mean, he's good. He's good bench. He's a good bench guy for sure.
Yeah, he's not a starter. He's a depth guy, which we need depth on that line.
Yep, and he's good at spot duty. He really is. He's a good backup swing guy on that offensive line. But I'm on the fence. If he walks, he walks. If he stays, all right.
Yeah, I'm fine with bringing him back, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over it if he does walk. So
bingo. Yeah.
Okay. Here is a guy that I know you are going to be absolutely heartbroken about. Linebacker Troy Dye is an unrestricted free agent.
Let the guy go, man. I'm always decent on special teams. And he did. And the time that he did play this season, he did play much better than he did in the past. I will give him that. Regardless, as a professional, he's in the NFL, so I can only say so much. But in my opinion, I would let Dye walk, but he is a great special teams player and a good leader in that special teams room. And like I said, he did come in this year and have some good snaps on defense when called upon. But I'm ready to move on as far as better potential depth at that spot.
Yeah. I mean, I think the coaching staff likes Troy Dye.
I believe so too. Yeah. But I have it again.
I think there's probably a push to sign him at the right price, but
I think we've seen his ceiling. I think we know what he is. I don't think he's going to get any better than what
I don't think so either. But like Dave mentions here, he's a good backup and he's a special teams guy. I think that's he's not somebody I want to call on to start for half a dozen games or anything like that. But
speaking of backups, and another guy that I was really disappointed in this year, and I thought this was the guy you were mentioning going to mention earlier. And that's Brian Asamoah. You know, I know we're talking about free agents this year.
Yeah.
That is a guy that really disappointed me this season. And I mean,
yeah, I agree, because we all expected him to be this, you know, to fight to be for starting position, but
we didn't even get any much. I don't think he got any playing time when Hicks went down.
Very little.
Troy
Dye played in it. I mean, a lot of times we ran one middle linebacker with Ivan Pace, but yeah, Asamoah got some play at the end of the season there in the last couple of games, but it wasn't anything really significant by any means.
Yeah, he was a big disappointment to me.
Yeah,
but Troy Dye, you all know my opinion. So,
yeah. All right, next guy on the list, defensive tackle James Lynch, unrestricted free agent.
I'm ready to move on from Lynch too. He was kind of hanging out there towards the end of training camp, whether or not he was even going to make the team.
Yeah, and then he got hurt that in the last preseason game, so then they put him on IR. Now, I always liked Lynch, but
I was always an advocate for him too earlier on in his career.
Yeah, I'm ready to move on from him as well, though. So we will do just that. The next guy, this one's an interesting one. Edge rusher / outside linebacker DJ Wonnum.
He would be somebody I would be really interested in bringing back.
Yeah. Now, if you'd asked me this question, and when we talked about it earlier, before the season started, that Wonnum was in a contract year, and I was ready to just let him walk at that point in time. I think there will be interest in bringing Wonnum back, but I also think that he played well enough this year. I mean, he had 8.5, 9 sacks, something like that.
8.5 or 9, yeah. I think there's interest in him throughout the entire league, honestly.
And that's what I was getting at.
It's going to bring his asking price up to a point to where it's going to be hard for us to decide whether or not we want to retain him or not.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think
somebody's going to pay for him.
I think there's a good likelihood that he does get a bigger payday someplace else than what we are willing and able to give him.
Yeah,
I'd like to have him back, Reggie. I agree with you. But
interesting this season for him. It will be an interesting season.
I think the odds are maybe 30% that he comes back, 40% tops.
Yeah, yep. Unless it's like a bar type thing where he feels connected to the state or whatever.
Well, Riley makes a good point here. Recovery time for his for his injury. He had a quad tear is going to take. What is it, 12 weeks, I suppose, before he's.
Yeah, it's not as severe as like a ACL or tear or nothing like that. I mean,
but it's still it is a flag, and we'll see. I guess what happens there. Next guy on this list, this guy was a afterthought when we signed him. It was kind of an emergency fill-in guy, but he played really well, and I'm all for bringing him back, and I'm pretty sure I know your thoughts on him too. But tackle David Quessenberry.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Quessenberry, absolutely. One of the better swing tackles we've had here in a long time, as far as quality backup goes. There's times when he played this season and got put in the starting spot, and he played like a starter. So I mean that right there is telling you that's great quality backup, and if you can get that back on your roster, you get him back.
Yeah, I agree. He played admirably at both tackle spots.
When he played like he was the starter, and that's what you want to see out of your backups is a guy that's able to step in and play at a starter like level.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to bring him back, so hopefully we can.
And the thing is, he can play both sides too. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Here's the next guy on the list. Center Austin Schlotman, unrestricted free agent.
This comes down to in my opinion, what goes about with Garrett Bradbury. I know he got extended this last year to a 3-year deal. How much do you really value Schlotman as a backup? That's what it comes down to me. Do you think you can go out and get somebody better in free agency, or do you go out and hope you can draft a guy that's better than Schlotman at center, or even find a UDFA after the draft? In my opinion,
I don't know that this is a real deep center class. haven't really looked into it all that much, but I know that some of the.
Or can you bring in a guy that's going to compete with Bradbury for the starter? Bradbury's under contract for the next 2 years. Do you bring a guy?
Right, but his contract is easy to get out from under. Should we find somebody else? So
yeah.
All right, moving on. This guy was brought up in the comments a little bit ago. I think Brother Dave brought it up. Outside linebacker, edge rusher, Anthony Barr. Since Barr was kind of signed off his couch out of necessity when one of them went down.
Well. He played well when called upon. His play wasn't a hindrance, I don't believe.
He didn't make much for splash plays either. So
right, but how much tread does he actually still have left on those tires, man? Yeah, exactly. I believe he's gone too.
Unless he wants to stick around as a depth guy. But yeah, I don't feel the need to bring him
emergency depth guy.
Yep. Okay, here's another interesting one. The aforementioned tight end Johnny Munt is an unrestricted free agent.
I mean, that's O'Connell's guy. He looks a lot like Jason Segel from Forgetting Sarah Marshall, but anyways, I like Muse more than I like the potential of Muse more than I like Munt. Granted, Munt's a decent blocking tight end. I like more of what I've seen in the youth in Muse than what I've seen in Munt. And Munt has been for the most part reliable when called upon, but he's not, a beater that's going to beat you down all game, like a Hawkinson guy is.
Well, according to Kevin O'Connell at the beginning of the season, he's the best third tight end in the league.
Like I said, man, he's O'Connell's guy. Yeah. So I could see him coming back just on that alone.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I like Oliver. I think we should have incorporated Oliver more in the pass game this year. The dude is a fucking a mammoth when he gets the ball. The dude's a big guy.
Oh yeah, he's what 6'7", 240 or something like that. He's a big dude.
Yep.
Munt is a centerpiece of this offense. Can't let him go. Anyway, moving on. Reggie brought this kid up a little while ago. Wide receiver Brandon Powell, unrestricted free agent.
He earned his right to come back if he wants it. But you know what? I think he played well enough this year to where some team might be willing to offer him some good money to come play for them as well.
It's possible. I would love to have Powell come back as our third wide receiver. You let the other
a lot of like a Percy Harvin type of receiver, for real. A little bit smaller.
Well, they call him Mighty Mouse for a reason. He's 5'8", 185 pounds. I mean,
yeah, and he is. He's totally a dog. That's why I gave the Harvin comparison as well. He reminds me a lot of Percy Harvin, and I think it's up in the air as far as I'm concerned for him to come back or not, because we got two great receivers here in Edison and Jefferson. Is Powell willing to take a back seat to that? I don't know.
I think Brandon Powell knows what he is, and that he's a complimentary third, fourth wide receiver, kick returner, and all that other stuff. I don't think Powell has delusions of grandeur and being a number one wide receiver someplace. And he's another O'Connell. He's another O'Connell guy. He's a KOC guy. But yes, Jared,
money does talk.
It does. Absolutely agree, Jared. If we run another tush push with Brandon Powell as the pusher, I might lose my shit. Pretty sure I did after the second one we ran earlier in the year. Then the next guy on the list, defensive end / defensive tackle Jonathan Bullard, another unrestricted free agent.
He's one of those guys that played over my expectations. He had, in my opinion, a stellar season. When he was called upon, and he was a starter. He played well. He played the run very well. So yeah. As far as bringing him back, I don't know. Maybe as for depth, I would like to see something. I'm talking like a cheap version of like a poor man's Percy Harvin, man. I'm just doing a comparison. I'm not saying he is Percy Harvin, but he reminds me of him.
Yeah. I mean, back on the Bullard thing, up until this season, Bullard was just a guy.
Yeah.
I think he was solid this year, not spectacular, but I still don't want to go back into next year with Jonathan Bullard as my starter
along the line. I want professionals that do really well on my defensive everywhere on my team. But
but I mean, Jonathan Bullard as a backup, I would.
There you go. That's the best
I would keep him as a backup over bringing Dean Lowry back. Dean Lowry was a massive disappointment this year. Half the time I didn't even know if he was on the field or not.
No, I'm not. No, don't be bringing back Dean Lowry. I just let him go.
Sweat from Texas. Yeah, I like that Sweat kid. Christian Wilkins out of Miami. This has been a hot rumor so far ever since the Vikings season's been over. Of course, he was Brian Flores's first draft pick as the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. So there's a connection there.
If we got Wilkins, it'd be like a Pat Williams, Linval Joseph, Delvin Tomlinson type of more than that. But I mean, as far as a good pickup goes at defensive tackle, type of impact that he would have.
He's better than Delvin Tomlinson.
Oh yeah. But I'm just saying we've had good luck guys.
I'm a big Christian Wilkins fan. I would love to have him on this. I'd love to have him on this defensive line, and I hope we can make it work.
We need a pure nose on this line, man.
We do. Drew Chris Jenkins from Michigan, best run stopper in the draft. Yeah, we definitely need, like I said, some more beef up front, whether it's one of these early guys or a guy mid-rounds kind of thing. We need defensive line. We do. But we'll get into draft stuff a little bit more down the road here. The next guy on the line, on the free agent list, speaking of linemen, on the offensive side, guard Chris Reed, unrestricted free agent.
Nah, I would let him walk.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean,
out of me, anyways.
He didn't play. I mean, he played it very sparingly at the end of this year. He was injured most of the season. Offensive line did fine without him, so I am perfectly fine with letting Chris Reed walk as well. This next guy is interesting. Running back Cam Akers, who is a restricted free agent.
I'd be okay bringing him back on a 1-year deal.
And Akers is a guy that can, with a restricted free agent, they can tender him.
Right.
I guess the $1 million question would be, will they tender him?
Right. I'd be okay with him coming back on a 1-year deal or a tender.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Drew here. I liked what Cam Akers did when he was here, but when these guys can't stay healthy, they're doing us no good.
Right.
You can't help the club when you're in the tub, as the old adage goes.
Davenport, man, what a waste.
Mm-hmm. Reggie, if we can get Blake Corum, I would be extremely happy with that. I have a feeling he's going to go a lot higher than we're going to be willing to spend draft capital on a running back for, though. But there's some really good running backs that are going to be available in like the fourth, fifth round and stuff like that. I think that's probably a more likely scenario where we would take a running back at, but I get time, or the draft is end of April, so we'll find out a lot of that stuff between now and then. But here's the next guy on the list: kicker Greg Joseph, unrestricted free agent.
Get rid of him, dude. Get rid of him. God,
I just want a goddamn kicker that doesn't make my sphincter clench and break into cold sweats every time he lines up to kick a goddamn extra point. Or, I mean, we've gone through enough kicker PTSD with this organization. Let's go find ourselves a good kicker.
We did, but we let him go.
Yeah, because Zimmer was impatient as hell at kickers.
Yep.
Oklahoma State running back. I can't think of it either, Reggie. But yeah, he's a guy I would look at. Vikes will get younger and take over his youngest team in the league from the Cheesers, but age doesn't matter. Yeah, you know how that all works. I'm not concerned with that right now, but cut the kicker and go for 2 every time. Yeah, a lot of teams kind of go with that strategy, but anyway, moving on. Another one that was mentioned earlier, tackle, also played guard, lined up at guard. He didn't really play guard very well, but Oli Udoh, unrestricted free agent.
Gone.
He was gone once. He was gone once before, and we brought him back. So
Nah.
Yeah,
I
have no real desire to bring Oli Udoh back. I mean, he plays better at tackle than he did at guard, but that's not saying much. I mean,
no, I would not. I have no interest in Udoh coming back for another season in purple.
No, I'm happy to see him be gone. Jerry, he was on injured reserve for a good portion of it. He got hurt early on, and so I think, yeah, I'm ready to end the Oli Udoh experience. We'll put it that way. Going to start getting into some of the bigger name guys here now. So we'll kind of see here. First one on that list, quarterback Josh Dobbs. Does the pastor not pique your interest at all?
No. I mean, as a backup, sure. But as far as offering a contract, I don't even know if I throw an offer out there, to be honest.
Pepperidge Farm remembers when after the New Orleans Saints games that there were lots of Vikings fans who were ready to offer him a 3-year contract to come in and be the full-time starter on this team.
Yeah. And then everything played out.
Yep. As a starting quarterback, I definitely do not want Josh Dobbs. As a backup quarterback, I do not want Josh Dobbs. He showed here why he's been on 7 NFL teams in 5 years, and 3 last season.
Yeah, that's a no for me.
We'll always have the the memories of the 2 games he played against Atlanta and New Orleans, but that's going to be about the end of it. Next guy on the list, and this guy, I'm going to preface right now, I want back. Guard Dalton Reisner, unrestricted free agent.
Of course, probably arguably the best lineman outside of Darisaw on the team this year, in my opinion, and that's a pretty kind of hot take when you got O'Neal out there too. But I think that Reisner solidified that left side of the line, and the interior of the line looked much better with Reisner out there, and then the continued development of Ingram later on in the season.
Yeah, I mean, the fan base clamored to bring in Dalton Reisner early in the season when Ingram was struggling, and Ezra Cleveland was doing whatever.
There was clamor before Reisner even arrived in Minnesota for Reisner to be here.
Well, yeah, I was during preseason. There was that at the end of the training camp and stuff. We talked about it. We depends on Reisner's contract demands. I mean, he's going to get paid. I think Spot Track or whoever had it on there that like $8 million a year. They're 3-year, $24 million deal, something like that.
And that sounds about right to me.
I'm not blinking an eye at $8 million a year for Dalton Reisner.
Nope, that sounds about good to me.
I mean, and by all, good evening, Doc. Better late than never. That's all right.
I believe Reisner wants to be here too.
I do too. I think Reisner likes it here. Every interview I've seen with him and everything. I mean, the guy, he's a good dude.
And when given the keys to that spot, he took it and he went with it. And that's what we wanted to happen.
He allowed us the opportunity to trade Ezra Cleveland before the trade deadline. I like him. I think he's good for the team. He's a good fit.
Good leader as well.
Yeah,
and a good guy.
He's got that, the history with Chris Cooper already. So, it's, I think it's an easy yes for me. Drew wants us to bring in Cushenberry so we could have Cushenberry and Quisenberry on the line when Cushenberry, he's a good center. If we could get him, I would be more than happy in that. Jer, $8 million, and that should be an easy yes. Yep. Pay the man. David, I am not talking about that guy because I already said we weren't going to talk about that guy. Should have got more for Ezra, but whatever. You got a draft pick for a guy that you were not going to keep after the end of the year. Anything you could get is better than nothing at that point in time. Next guy on the list. This is an interesting one too. Kind of curious to see what you think on this one. Linebacker Jordan Hicks, unrestricted free agent.
If we do bring Hicks back, another 1-year deal for me. If he wants anything more than that, depending on the money talking, I would ideally just want him back on the 1-year deal. He's getting right. You know what I mean? I mean, granted, he had a great season this year in all rights, Pro Bowl type of season. Granted, he doesn't get injured, I believe.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, you bring him back on a fair deal for a year. And if he doesn't take it, then he's gone.
Yeah, I mean, we were all ready to jettison Hicks after last year because he played awful. He had probably his worst season as a pro, in the Donashell defense. But
that tells you a lot about Flores, too. I mean, you got the best out of Hicks. You got the best out of a lot of these guys on defense this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised at how well Jordan Hicks played this year. He played like Jordan Hicks played.
Yeah.
Like Drew hit it right on the head here. Great scheme fit for Flores' defense. I'd like to get him back. Again, 1-2 year deal, probably tops, but.
And in all honesty, the worst that would be is you would have great depth at that position.
Yeah. If we find another linebacker someplace else, to come in.
Ideally, younger, obviously, is what I'm talking about here. If you get a young guy that can outplay Hicks, then you're stuck in a good spot with great depth behind this young guy, whoever that may be.
Yeah, but for me, it's a yes. Bringing Jordan Hicks back. Didn't think I would be saying that at the end of this season, at the end of last season, but situations as they are, and like I said, great scheme fit. He's a good leader.
Yeah, outside of that injury that he suffered this year, had he not suffered that injury,
well, and that was just a freak thing. I mean, he got a bruise in his calf or in his quad that turned into a compartment injury that he could have lost his freaking leg from.
Right. Yeah. I mean, arguably, he had at least a second-team All-Pro type of season outside if he stayed healthy the entire year. Close.
Yeah, I mean, I was thoroughly impressed with him this year, and bring him back. Here's another guy that I don't know how we're going to be able to live without, but outside linebacker Marcus Davenport, who we paid $13 million for like 12 snaps. You got about $1 million a snap.
You can't trust him. When he did play, he played really well, but
he played a game and a half.
Yeah, and he played really well in that game and a half that he did play. And he played how I hoped he would have played in the system, but the dude just couldn't stay healthy, and that's a big, big thing.
Well, but even worse than that, at the end of the, there was talk around that he should have been able to play, about week 12 somewhere in there, and there was a lot of talks. I know Doogie Wolfson and a few others talked about the fact that there didn't seem like there was any desire from him to get himself back out on there on the field. I'm absolutely
that was concern coming into the year too. As far as that's why it was a 1-year deal to begin with. It was basically a prove it deal, and some of the concerns were his work ethic. As far as
yeah, but realistically, you could have given me $6.5 million, got the same amount of production, and saved yourself $6.5 million.
Yeah,
and I'd have been happy because I had $6.5 million. So
I don't trust the guy enough, nor did I see enough to even think about bringing him back. It just
no.
It's a roster spot that was wasted this year that could potentially be wasted again, and I don't like that. And
there's no potential for that. I don't think there's
his number.
I don't think there is any desire for him to come back. And yes, Ivan Pace should get 0 next season.
Be the first jersey I get. Honestly.
Yeah. But I mean, we've already you can't hit on every free agent. Very true, Drew. But we've already given Marcus Davenport more time in this episode than he saw the field during the season. So
next,
the big name on the list, edge rusher, outside linebacker, Danielle Hunter.
I think at this point in his career, he wants to test the market. And how can you argue with that? I love me some Danielle Hunter. But it's one of the biggest questions coming into the offseason as an organization. And I believe Hunter wants to see what's out there and what the asking price is and what he could potentially get. And whether or not we're going to be able to coax it. It's going to come back to whether or not Hunter wants to come back here and the look at what the market is for him in this offseason.
Well, there's always a market for quality edge rush. Now, end of the season, once Wanham went down and there was nobody else rushing off the other side, his production dropped considerably. I mean, he went three weeks without a sack. Still had 16.5, which is a career high for him. But, and fits perfectly in Flores' defense.
Yeah, I agree. I want him back. Do I think we're going to be able to get him back? It's going to take a lot.
Yeah, Hunter going to get 28 per. I don't think he gets quite that high. I could easily see 25. I know there's interest on both sides for him to return, but the money thing is going to be an issue when you have contracts like Justin Jefferson. You have to figure out. You want to be able to sign some additional free agents like a Christian Wilkins and that kind of thing. But we also, right, if Hunter walks and Wanham walks, then our right as it sits right now, our starting edge rushers next year are Andre Carter and Pat Jones.
Yeah, that doesn't sound very good.
Yeah, that doesn't work for me. Patrick Jones was another one I was very disappointed in this year. I expected him to play a lot better than he did.
I expected him to play better too, but I think he could have gotten more snaps earlier in the year.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, he here and there had a couple, but I think he only had sack and a half, 2 sacks, something like that. It wasn't much.
Yeah. So, and I think a lot of that has to do with just not seeing the field very often. But when he did see the field, I thought he played fairly well.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed with him this year. I was disappointed in him, actually. I thought there was going to be more out of him this year than it was, but
I expect more for sure. Anyways.
Yeah. That about does it for the free agents. What?
Oh, I don't know.
Did I forget somebody?
I don't know.
Oh, let me look at my list here. Hold on. Oh, yeah, shit. I forgot somebody.
Who's that?
Apparently Kirk Cousins is a free agent this at the end of now here. Did you know that?
I did not.
Reggie couldn't wait any longer. He had to bring it up. team-friendly deal for Kirk Cousins. I think if the Vikings could get him back on a team-friendly 1 to 2 year deal, I think they would do that. Regardless of it.
Kirk is toying right now with the media, saying, you know, I would be willing to consider it and all that. You know, we ain't gonna know until the offers start getting out there.
Yeah, well, you know, and it was brought up. Somebody asked him about Bill Belichick here earlier because, of course, you know, the hot rumors of one of the teams that would be in the market for Kirk Cousins would be Atlanta. You know, definitely a fit there just because he lives down there in the off season. His wife's family is from down there. And, you know, Riley Kirk to Atlanta seems destined. Honestly, you know, if Bill Belichick gets the job in Atlanta, which I would probably put money on happening, Bill Belichick is 72 years old. He's not going to want to start over with a rookie quarterback.
So Kirk sounds like a perfect fit down there then.
Yeah, I mean, the tea leaves are reading that kind of thing. Now, I mean, we could hear a month from now that, you know, Kirk has signed an extension with the Vikings and this is all a moot point, but decide before the deadline, Kwesi's not taking that cap hit. I mean, we got $28 million in dead money on Kirk this year. If we re-sign him, you can spread that out a little bit and knock it down. But, you know, and Kirk is saying the right things. Of course, being the non-committal player speak guy that Kirk is, you know, make sure he never says anything that's going to piss anybody off, but purposely vague in the same process to keep all of his options open. I honestly don't know. I mean, what do you consider a team-friendly deal for Cousins?
20 mil, I guess. 18.
He's not playing here for 20 mil. He's not.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know.
30? I don't know. 30, you know. His market value is 40 to 45 million.
Yeah, absolutely.
We are not paying Kirk Cousins 40 to 45 million.
32 million. That would be fair in my opinion. I don't know. I really don't know. Man.
I could be talked into it at 30 to 35 maybe. But you know, at this point,
regardless of what we do with Kirk, we need to be thinking about the future at the same time.
Yeah.
Not playing for the fuck are you in? Yeah. Yeah.
Brett Favre re-signed in 2010 for 18 million.
Hey, perfect. Yeah, sounds good to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't go over 35 personally, but I also don't think Kirk signs for 35. He says, you know, the money's not the most important thing anymore and this, that, and everything else. But it's hard to be staring $10 million a year in the face and just say, no, it's not important.
Like I said, man, either way, you got to be thinking about the future, whether or not Kirk resigns.
You do.
To me, it all comes down to targeting your guy and going and doing whatever it takes to get him. As far as, you know, we need the next guy that's going to lead us into the next era of Vikings football. And we can't just keep using crutches all the time.
Lance and Scooby been. I think it's a van down by the river, not a can, but yeah.
A can.
I mean, there is so many arguments you can make on either side of the fence for this. You know, he's 36 years old. He's coming off an Achilles. You know, they're both saying the right things, but one thing I thought was interesting this week, Paul Allen, yesterday, I think it was talking about this, and he is moving towards you have to move on from Kirk because he's 36 years old, coming off an Achilles injury and that kind of money. To me, that is, I think, the Vikings organization subtly putting out the deal that, hey, you're not going to get the same kind of contract as you've always gotten around here. You want to come back on our price, we'll talk turkey. But because we all know PA get the information, his insider information comes from within the building.
Voice of the Vikings, man.
If somebody inside that building tells PA something, they want it to get out.
Yeah.
It's
even
not
if it's like a nondescript type of way, just
it's not he's buddy with Wes Phillips.
Exactly. That's exactly it, Reggie. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah. I can go either way with it, but we got to get a quarterback of the future.
Regardless.
I want a guy. There's been a lot of talk of, of course, we all heard that the Vikings tried to give up the farm last year to move up for a quarterback. If they were willing to do it last year, they're definitely going to be willing to do it this year, and I think they probably get it done.
I agree.
You're going to have to go up.
I think O'Connell and Quessy know that, hey, man, we're going into year 3. This is it. We tried last year, and now beyond all means, we need to go get the guy that we need to get at quarterback. And
let Quessy and KOC build this team the way they want to build it, not we got to just keep slapping Flex Seal on the side of a leaking dam just because we want to stay competitive.
Right.
But, I've heard plenty of talk that, and they're probably right. We would have to go up to probably 3 to be able to get one of those guys, to make sure we get one of them and we don't get jumped by somebody. The Bears, I don't believe, would trade with us.
No.
They'll trade with somebody else, I think. The whole will they keep Justin Fields or not over there kind of a thing is.
Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be going to the Bears if they don't get rid of that pick.
Yeah. 2 quarterbacks you can take it at 11. Caleb Williams, Daniels, or Drake May. I'm not on the Caleb Williams train. Caleb Williams is going to go at the beginning of the draft. We all know that. But the off-field stuff and the things that some of this shit with Caleb Williams, he believes his own hype, and
how much of this shit that's coming out is actually truth?
There is that too, but I'm not talking about the stuff in the media and that the stuff that he wants ownership and crap like that. That stuff is all just bullshit. I'm not listening to any of that. The stuff I'm talking about is the stuff I saw on the sidelines and things like this, where he lost a game and refused to come out to do his interview after, the post-game press conference that they're required to do. They're going over into the stands and crying on the sidelines and this, stuff like this. To me, there's just, that's what I was getting at there, Jared. But it's not, I'm going off the looks and everything else.
But you know what, Rhino? At the end of the day, and I could say this for you, if Caleb Williams is the Vikings quarterback at the end of the day, we're going to root for him.
Oh, absolutely.
There you go, people.
Drew, I will agree with you on the Drake May thing. Drake May is my first pick. He's the guy I want.
Yeah.
I'm not sold yet on McCarthy. I know you're a Michigan fan. I trust your judgment on him, Drew, but it just, they never asked him to do that much. Can he be that guy? Or is he going to be an Alex Smith? Or is he an Alex Smith type guy that, the guy that's going to go out there and not lose you a game, but can't throw the team on your back and go out and win you games?
Yeah, Daniels, man. Like Weaver, man.
Yeah.
I'm big on Daniels right now as well.
Daniels is my 1A to Drake May. Those are the 2 guys I want. If I could get either one of those 2 guys, I'm going to be ecstatic. But anyway, we probably better move on to the predictions here. We've got an hour on the other stuff, so we'll talk draft and everything else more as we get closer. But being it is divisional round weekend, we have 4 games this weekend, so we are going to hit those games here quick. And starting off Saturday, 3:30 p.m. Central Time on ESPN ABC, the Houston Texans go to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. What you got there, Lance?
I love me that, you know what? And we said this last week. Me and you, we were completely wrong about CJ Stroud.
Yeah, I fully admit it.
Yeah,
I blew his evaluation. I fell into that Ohio State quarterback thing. Can't make it thing.
A lot of higher ups did too. So, with that being said, he's playing fantastic ball. He did not flinch, being put on the spot that he was put in last week in his first playoff game as a pro. Looked like a great leader, and he looked like he was stone cold. Nothing was bothering him, and he runs that offense very well. And if they had Tank Dell, I mean, it's to me, it would be no question. But with that being said, I want the Texans to win this game.
I do too.
But the Ravens, I believe, are the cream of the crop right now in the AFC.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It would not surprise me to see Houston go in and shock the world and knock off Baltimore. But Baltimore right now, they're the class of the NFL. They're clicking on offense, they're clicking on defense. They're at home.
They can move the ball through the air and they can move the ball on the ground. I mean,
yep. And Lamar Jackson's playing better than I ever imagined him playing too. So
coach, man.
I'm going with the Ravens, but hoping for the Texans. We'll put it that
Cooking
way.
with grease, man. Cooking with grease.
Yep.
As Roquan Smith likes to say.
All right. Second Saturday game, 7 p.m. Central, Fox. The Green Bay Packers travel to Santa Clara Levi's Stadium to take on the 49ers.
It's going to make me absolutely sick if it's a Green Bay Detroit NFC Championship game.
Yeah, it was.
I got to hand it to Love. He had a great game last week. Green Bay came out and won that game. But San Francisco is a whole nother ball game. It's at San Francisco. I'm going to go with San Fran just because I hate Green Bay so much. And, I mean, San Francisco is the cream of the crop of the NFC, in my opinion, right now as well. Just like Baltimore. It should be a Baltimore-San Francisco Super Bowl at this point for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going San Francisco too. I mean, we all knew Dallas were frauds. They always are frauds when they get in the playoffs. I would have liked to have seen as much as I hate to say it, and I feel dirty for saying it, I would have liked to have seen Dallas win last week.
Yeah, I would have too. Absolutely. I hate what's going on in Wisconsin right now.
Yeah. We made the comment earlier in the year that we hope Jordan Love is just good enough to where they don't take a quarterback this year. Unfortunately, he's looking like he's better than that.
I don't believe it yet.
I mean, it's a year. He could come back next year and completely take a dump on the G in the middle of Lambeau Field. But
he could get exposed this weekend in San Francisco. Who knows? So we'll see.
Yeah, but
I'm going to go north. I'm going to go Niners here because I cannot.
Yeah, I'm taking Niners. Taking Niners as well. All right, then the 2 games on Sunday. First off, 2 p.m. on NBC, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers go to Detroit to take on the Lions.
Buccaneers, man. They're playing well. And I think against this Detroit team, it's any given Sunday type of circumstance, they could, I don't trust this Detroit team quite yet to get it done. We'll see. And I don't trust Tampa Bay either for that matter. So there's enough said there.
Yeah.
I can't pick Detroit here. I mean, I can, but I don't want to, so I'm not gonna. So I'll go with Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. I mean, the Lions, I don't know if they were playing a little tight last week, but that was the only close game of the entire weekend.
Yeah, and that was the best game of the weekend.
And the Rams were driving down at the end. The Rams probably should have won that game.
Had the Rams gotten the ball back there at the end, they would have won that game.
Yeah. I mean, Detroit giving up 800 yards passing to Nick Mullins in 2 games this year tells me all I need to know about Detroit's secondary.
No.
Tampa Bay has got good wide receivers. You got Mike Evans, and you've got
they got a good secondary too. So I mean, Tampa Bay can get it done. Tampa Bay could surprise some people and make it to the NFC Championship game. Do they make it to the Super Bowl? I don't think so, but I believe that they have it. I believe they have it in them to upset Detroit this weekend. I really do. I believe that. I believe that. And
anybody that questions Baker Mayfield's toughness and his grit after the season he's had this year hasn't been paying attention. So,
hey man, I earlier this year. Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback in my opinion.
Yeah. So. I'm taking Tampa Bay here too. All right, final game. Sunday evening, 5 p.m., CBS. For the first time in his career, Patrick Mahomes goes on the road in the playoffs to face the Buffalo Bills.
This is going to be a good game. This is probably the best game of the weekend, I believe. Oh, man. This is like back when Aikman and Montana back when Aikman and like Steve Young would go back and forth in the early 90s. It's like a Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes thing now going on.
Well, it's Manning and Brady back then, then too.
Right.
So.
I mean, this is a toss-up for me. Honestly, I don't know who to pick. I'm going to have to go with Bills because I believe right now at the playmaking positions outside of quarterback, the Bills have the better players.
I'm taking Buffalo as well on this one. I think Kansas City got exposed a little bit. Kansas City is not the Kansas City we've seen the last 3-4 years. They don't have shit for wide receivers. Going to Buffalo, I mean, it was colder than hell in Kansas City last week, but Buffalo, the snow, all that up there.
Sure, advantage for sure, yes. Especially this time of year.
Bills Mafia is going to be absolutely rabid this weekend. I think Stephon Diggs is going to be on a big game. Josh Allen, as long as he can limit the stupid throws, which he tends to have, I think Buffalo goes out and I think Buffalo could win this game convincingly.
I believe so too. Like I said, I believe the playmakers are much better than the playmakers right now in Kansas City.
Yeah. So I think we agreed all the way across the board. Ravens, 49ers, Bucks, and Bills as your representatives for the championship games next weekend. But we'll see how things go on that, I guess. But with that, excuse me. With that, we've gone over an hour here. I didn't expect to go this long tonight, but we had some great discussion. Thank you again, everybody, for joining us in the chat room. Shout out to those who are watching, the Filipino fan club over there, Noy, Jen, BB. All you guys, I know you're watching as well. With that, again, hit that like button on the way out the door if you have not done so already. Helps us out a ton on this. Off season's here for the Vikings, but we are not slowing down. We are still having Rhinos Rants Monday. Brunswick's Best will be back at some point in time. We're doing a little bit of behind the scenes discussions on how we want to continue on that. We still have a few numbers left to go. And of course, again, next Friday, we'll have another studio show where we will preview the conference championships and have a bunch of other good stuff to talk about as well. So with that, again, thank you very much, everybody, for spending your Fridays with us. We appreciate it more than you guys will ever understand. And we love doing these live shows. It's a ton of fun. Great way to kick off the weekend. So with that, why don't you take us home, Lance?
In my opinion, this coming season is the defining year for Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah as far as it goes with this team. This next season is extremely important in the growth of this organization and the growth of this team. I think that ending the way we ended the season was, I believe, probably the most dire feeling out of the entire division this year in the North. You know, you got Green Bay making the playoffs. You got the Lions looking at possibly making a good, strong run to the Super Bowl. And then you got the Bears ending the year on a high note, you know, with winning some games there at the end of the season. Justin Fields looking much, much better towards the end of the year. And then you have us. You know, we had everything in front of us, and we just shit our pants for the rest of the year, you know. Granted, yeah, there's no excuses though. You know, really. In my opinion, I feel like as a Vikings team, we ended the season on the most dire note in the NFC North, and that kind of scares me a little bit moving forward. But other than that, next year is a defining year for Kevin O'Connell and Quessy. And with that being said, we'll see y'all next week. Aubrey and Millie, if you're watching, Dad loves and misses you. Skull.
Have a great weekend, everybody. Skull Vikes.